Well, I've been to the state surplus store in Texas yet again and spent about as much as I ever have there. Um, this represents about $500 worth of knives that I bought at the state surplus store. For those of you not familiar with the state surplus store, this is where all of the knives that are surrendered to the TSA eventually end up in Texas. Um, so people going through airport security checkpoints in Dallas and Houston and Austin and San Antonio and all those big airports, if they and the little airports, if they are stopped and told that they cannot proceed with a knife that they're carrying, those knives get surrendered to the TSA and they end up getting turned over to the state surplus store for resale. Um, and people like me come in and buy them. And they happen to have a lot of stuff that I was interested in when I went this time, and I spent more than I intended to. But I don't think more than is reasonable for what I got, because I can, clean a few of these things up and sell them and make back what I invested, and still have a few pieces to add to my own collection. So um, I'll walk you through what I got here and what I paid for it to the best of my recollection, um, and a little bit about some uh, particular points of interest. We did have some vintage and historically significant knives in this batch, so let me let me go through it. Let's start with the less expensive stuff. How about the CRKTs, the Columbia River Knife and Tool Company? We've got a few here. Um, this one I picked up mostly just for the novelty of that serrated uh, Tonto tip. Um, this was $15. It's called the Thunderbolt 2. Okay. Uh, I I looked it up. I don't recall what steel this is, but it's nothing special. It's AUS 8 or 8CR steel, something like that. It's a liner lock. It's got sort of copper colored uh, inserts in there. And action on it is fine. It has the ability to add a secondary lock that prevents the liner from closing. Um, CRKT often has sort of extra complicated uh, safety mechanisms or extra locks for locks. Um, this one, the copacetic, I picked up mostly because it was in good condition. It was $15. Probably not a great bargain, really, because these sell for like 30 or something like that, brand new. Um, but good solid liner lock with grippy, sort of rubberized uh, handle material. Okay. One more here. This one is called the Snarky, which is a good name. Um, I have wiped these all down with rubbing alcohol, and so that sort of dull residue on there is what's left after wiping them off with rubbing alcohol. Um, before I am done with them, I will clean them up with CLP, which will leave them looking a lot cleaner and nicer. But the alcohol at least disinfects them. This is a flipper. Flips okay. Kind of reminds me of I mean, it's got an interesting recurve to it. This black and stainless handle kind of reminds me of the Valaton designs, like that I've seen on a few of his customs, and then also on the Spyderco knives. Of course, this is a different designer. booth. But kind of a cool little knife. Uh, let's do Kershaw next. Picked up a few Kershaws. Um, a scallion with black coated blade. These are very commonly found at the state surplus store, and um, it's easy to find one in bad condition. It's a little harder to find one in good condition, and you can take these apart and get the action working good if the assisted opening mechanism has gotten a little gummy. But this one doesn't need it. This is nice, snappy action, just as is. Okay. Couple of Kershaws with Emerson openers. Got this clip point one, and these are available in they were in AUS 8 and now they're also in D2. This is the D2 version, as you can tell there, D2 in the model number. It's a steel frame lock flipper. Well, not flipper. It's got a disc opener and an Emerson wave opener, so you can catch this on the hem of your pant pocket as you're drawing the knife out of your pocket, and it'll open the blade as it comes out of your pocket. D2 is not completely stainless, so there are some rust spots on here. I think I can probably clean those up and make them basically go away. And a larger Emerson design for Kershaw, also in D2. This one's got a spear point blade with a saber grind. Okay, that was also $15. These are not expensive knives, even new, but they're more than $15. Also got a large blur, Kershaw blur. This one's with the green aluminum handle. This is also an assisted opener, also made in the United States. Doesn't say it on here, but the steel is 14C28N, which is Sandvik steel from Sweden. And it's a good balanced traditional ingot formed steel. Black coating on this is pretty clean. Looks like this knife was carried a good deal based on the wear on the pocket clip, but not used all that much based on the fact that it still has pretty pristine blade. So I'll clean up some of this pocket lint and stuff, and this will be nice. These have inset grippy textured stuff. This is a Ken Onion design, I believe. Maybe it says, yeah, Ken Onion, who does a lot of great stuff, and a lot of great stuff with Kershaw in particular. All right, so that was $15 also. Most of these Kershaws were $15. Here's another one in even better condition. Another blur, also green aluminum. These come in lots of different colors, but I happened to come across two in green that both looked great. Good assisted opening mechanism on both of those. One's a little darker than the other. They were probably the same color originally, but you know, exposure to light or whatever maybe made one of them a little darker. Okay. How about Boker Plus? We've got a couple of Boker Pluses here. I believe this model is the Cataclysm. This is in 440C, which is a good, traditional ingot formed steel, well balanced steel. This is a steel frame lock flipper. I think this is steel. It might be titanium. I'd have to test this with a magnet and see, but I'm pretty sure it's steel. This knife has a nicely crowned spine. The spine is rounded over. It's got a couple spots of rust on it that I'm going to need to clean up. G10 scale on this side of the handle. Okay. And yeah, your basic basic flipper. Okay. One more here. This is designed by Serge Panchenko, and this is an S35VN steel. So this is a premium powder metallurgy steel with carbon fiber handles. It's a liner lock, and it is a top flipper or front flipper. Almost got it there. I've got a real weird angle on this because of the camera. Nope, I'm doing terrible. There we go. And of course it does have a thumb hole, but you can't really reverse flick it because the handle scale gets in the way, but you can open it with the thumb. Okay. Nice drop point profile on that blade. Good materials. I think this was like 40 bucks or something like that. I didn't say what this other one cost. This was probably like 25. Okay. Oh, I missed a CRKT. This is a Williams design. This is the Otonashi no Ken. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Japanese. Don't speak Japanese. It's clearly a fighting knife. I have the assisted version that's very similar to this. It's the Hisatsu folder. This is a manual opener with a thumb disc, and it's got those real aggressive serrations in it, and a pretty acute tip. The steel on these is 8CR or 9CR or something like that. Nothing really mind-blowing. Again, we've got the mechanism here that allows you to lock out the liner lock so it can't be accidentally closed. G10 handle scale on this as opposed to the nylon on the Hisatsu. And that's a big blade, and that's more than 4 inches. Okay. Here's another Kershaw. Man, I picked up a lot of stuff in this order. This is another Ken Onion design, another American-made Kershaw. This is a leek. Play on onion, leek, right? Scallion, also play on leek. The designer's last name. Ken Onion. This has got the safety mechanism intact. A lot of times you'll find these with the little plastic safety tab busted off. It's an assisted flipper, and the steel on this is 14C28N. It's that same Sandvik steel from Sweden, and this model is in camo. These are also fairly common, not in camo, but in just stainless steel. And this was $15. Got a traditional slip joint here. Let's see if we can make out the designer's name on this. This is a John Prattle. Can't quite tell. There's too much patina for me to read that name clearly. But it's an American-made slip joint knife, traditional trapper style, with a sheep's foot blade and a spay blade, and it's carbon steel, pretty heavy patina on there, but I can clean that up some without ruining it. Oh, and it's got something else written on the blade there. Premium John something finest steel. All right. Unfortunately, the little shield has fallen out of this, so I might replace that with just a piece of plain plain steel or aluminum little circle that I can sand and fit into that spot just so that it's not a hole. Jigged bone handles, brass liners, good traditional slip joint knife. Okay, Hogue. We've got one big Hogue here, the EX04. This looks like an automatic. It is not. It's a button lock manual knife. Great button lock action. It does have thumb studs, and it works well for flipping with a thumb or a reverse flick. The blade shape on this thing, it's kind of crazy. It's got almost a hawk bill kind of coming into the front there, and then it's got a recurve going on in the back. So the linear edge on this is a lot. You get, you know, the it's almost a 4-inch length blade, but then the linear edge is going to be more than that because of all the curvature in the blade. You got a spot up here for your finger to do some fine control. You can choke up more. Not much of a tip left on that. It kind of got rounded over a little bit. Reverse tanto shape. Really nicely contoured G10 handle scales. Of course, Hogue is known for making handles for firearms, so it's not surprising that they are skilled at making handles on their knives as well. Kind of an attractive layered laminated G10 with different colors, blue and black. And then we've got a lock here that locks the button lock so that you can't accidentally unlock this thing, which could be an issue if you were holding it in a reverse grip because your hand could cover the button lock, right? This was like 80 bucks. It's 154 cm steel. It's an Allen Elishewitz design. 154 cm is a good balanced steel. It's traditional ingot steel. It's not anything earth-shattering, but perfectly respectable steel, and really a nice knife. Got one Benchmade on the table, which is a full-sized Griptilian with black-coated blade, and this is in S30V steel, which is the current standard production steel for the Griptilian. You'll see a lot of these in the surplus store that are a little bit older and are made with, well, you'll see them in a few different steels. You'll see them in D2, you'll see them in 440, see them in 154 cm, but the current production is S30V. And of course that's the axis lock, and pretty good action on it without any tuning or anything for me. Injection molded handles, so you get, you know, some contour, good. I mean, there's a reason they call it the Griptilian. It's got a good grip to it, although the texture of this stuff is not all that pleasing, and it's loud. You snap that thing closed, or open for that matter. And that brings us to the Spydercos, and this thing that looks like a Spyderco that is not. This is a Blade Tech designed by Tim Wegner, and Tim Wegner has also designed a bunch of stuff for Spyderco, but Blade Tech was the company that he founded in the early 90s. And you can see this design looks very similar to this Wegner designed Spyderco. Right? It's an early vintage Spyderco. Wegner also has designed other things for Spyderco, like this, which is I think called the Ocelot, which has nice, just like this knife, it has jimping way up on the blade. So if you were doing some skinning or some, you know, real detailed work, you could put your finger way out there and control the blade, or you could put your, you know, you could choke back on it a little bit and put your thumb on that jimped area there. Same jimping on this Blade Tech. Okay. Very utilitarian knife. liner lock. This one's a back lock with that Boyd detent. So there's the Blade Tech, and then we've got Spyderco's. So this is a current production paramilitary 2 in S45VN, right? And this is the latest CQI version. You know, these for a while they had uncoated hardware back here in the liners and the lock mechanism for the compression lock, but they now have recently updated these to be all blacked out hardware. So this is a relatively new knife, and also not much used. You know, the coating is pretty pristine on this. You do see fake Spydercos. Usually, if you examine them, you can tell that some things are wrong. This is not a fake. Sal Glesser's initials sometimes are a little bit in the wrong place. Sometimes they put a period after Goldman instead of a comma on the fake ones. Sometimes the Spyder logo is a little bit wrong. And yeah, everything checks out with this one. I'm confident this is a legitimate Spyderco, not a counterfeit knockoff. This one looks to have been carried some. It does have some wear on the pocket clip, but not much wear on the blade. So I don't think it's been used really much at all. This is in camo G10, digital camo. And the military. So this is bigger than the PM2. The military model is generally a liner lock. This one is a frame lock. And these are not titanium scales. That's a titanium handle, titanium frame. There's no inset scale in there. There is a little insert so that you have steel on steel for the lock instead of titanium on steel, because those would wear differently. But it's a frame lock titanium version of the Spyderco military. And these originally, the MSRP on them was $399. It is in CPMS 30V, which is still the steel they're going to be using on the new compression lock models of the Spyderco military that are coming out this year. Tip down carry only, right? No option to put this for tip up. That's changing on the new compression lock model. Full flat grind, big blade. Huge blade, huge handle, right? If I'm choked up on this, I get tons of real estate on the handle. And this is designed with a big cutout for the frame lock so that it can be operated by somebody wearing gloves. Okay, we've got a horn design, a Jess horn design. It says Jess horn all over the handle there. It looks like the handle Zytel or FRN, something like that. But this is the horn, Spyderco horn, with that interesting swedge and a saber grind. This one's OS 8, made in Japan, made in Seki City. I also have, from a previous purchase, the baby horn, which is an ATS 34, I think. No, that's also an OS 8, also from Japan. A little smaller. Okay. This is vintage Spyderco. This is an older knife from the 90s. And if we want to go truly vintage Spyderco, here's maybe the most interesting find I picked up here. This is the Spyderco Worker, which is the very first model Spyderco. Now, this is not one of the very first Spyderco Workers. The very earliest ones had 2 screws on the pocket clip and did not have a beveled edge around the handle. It was just flat slab. This is G2 steel. Crazy upswept tip there at the end. the little swedge on it, saber grind, lock back, and this knife, one of the interesting distinctions about the Spyderco Worker is it is the very first production knife that was made with a pocket clip. Hard to believe that that innovation is only, about, less than 40 years old, less than 30 years old, or about 30 years old. Uh, it's hard to think of pocket knives without pocket clips, but of course, Case and Buck, and we still have a lot of knives that don't have pocket clips. But that was the big innovation that Spyderco brought to the table was the thumb hole opener and the pocket clip. And there were people that had modified their knives, and there were custom knife makers who were putting pocket clips on things. But Spyderco was the first to do it with a production knife, and that was this guy right here, the Spyderco Worker. This particular sample, as I said, it's not one of the very first workers, but it is an early one. It's probably from the early 90s. Also, I think the very first ones did not have a lanyard hole. But pretty good shape for a knife that's been kicking around for 30 years. All right, well, and I paid, what did I pay for this? I can't remember, but it was less than $100. Um, the military, it was $100. That's what I paid for it. And the horn was like 40 or 50. And this might have been something like 60, 70 bucks probably. Sorry if I don't remember exactly the prices I paid on all of these, but I went a little crazy. It's lots of good stuff, and it was all reasonable. I'm happy with what I paid for these things for the most part. And there you go. That's what $500 will get you on a good day in TSA confiscated knives if you're able to actually pick through them and find the ones you want as opposed to buying a big bundle of them. Pretty good. Pretty good assortment. All right. Thanks.